Hari Om. Let's start with a prayer. Om Samasta Jana Kalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanura Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhusya Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravidam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Gurudeva Deva. Hari Om. We are examining self-realization, and as we mentioned, there are a lot of confusion and opinions and methodologies, paths suggested for self-realization. And some say, in fact, Krishnamurti says, the truth is no paths for it. So, several statements and from different acharyas have different opinions and methodologies suggested in terms of what exactly involves self-realization. And some say self-realization is not necessary nor it is sufficient. One has to have a God realization. So what exactly God realization, what exactly self-realization, is there a relation between the two? All are being discussed in many of the theories, and if you go to Google, we said, you can get all sorts of opinions, and who is right here? We raised a lot of questions in the first talk, and in the second talk, we discussed also what is that I really want. It's called Purusharthas. What is that I want to accomplish? So when I say I want to be a successful person, the life is worth living, what is that exactly means? And there is again a procedure that is prescribed in the scriptures, and many philosophies and religions have different opinions about what it is. And some say only when you surrender to this person or this God or this methodology, you will be saved. Otherwise, you will not be saved. All these statements you hear. And they propagate that as though that is the basis, because their scriptures say so. And what about the other scriptures? Other scriptures are no more valid because our scripture is valid. So this kind of confusion and ownership of the salvation or moksha or nirvana and so on and so forth, which are words used, have been described. So according to at least the Hindu religion, there are 4 things called human pursuits have been classified without considering the specifics of individuals. So I say, I want to get promotion, I want to become a minister, I want to become a president, that's my goal. Then what happens after that? Because presidentship is only for some days. Once you get out of it, you are only ex-president. Then what is the life? So question is always thinking of reaching some goal, but reaching a finite goal, however big that finiteness is. And all these have been analyzed systematically in Vedanta. So in Vedanta, or Vedanta is what we study, and is a science of the highest knowledge. Veda means knowledge, and we'll go into a little bit why Vedanta. Is there some other religions not pointing out this? We'll examine all those aspects. So what are the 4 human pursuits according to the Indian system of Hindu system of the religious things? Is essentially Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha that we discussed last time. Dharma is we define what is dharma, ethical living. Why should I do ethical living? That makes, first thing is, you are going to be happy that way, because if you try to step over on other people's problems, then others will also step over on you. So there is a big problem in terms of, I want that and he wants this, and my life will be miserable and his life will be miserable. So what is dharma? We have defined in a simple way. Dharma is that what I don't want others to do to me, I should not do to others. What I want others to do to me, I should do to others. That becomes a reciprocal relationship or reciprocal responsibilities, and that is essentially, it's not my right, it's my become a duty. So duty-bound society, that's what is dharma. My dharma again depends upon what role I am taking in the society. So in the Bhagavad Gita, it says, Swadharme nidhanam sreyaha paradharmo bhayavaha. He says it is better to do what is your dharma than try to follow other people's dharma. So what is my dharma? My dharma depends upon my role in the society. We gave a general description of what is dharma for everyone. I should not do what I don't want others to do me. This is across the board. These are universal values. These are not relative values. These are universal values, whether it is now or thousands years from now or thousands years back from also. So these are where, what is that I don't want others to do to me? I don't want others to steal my property. I don't want others to lie. Even a notorious liar wants everyone else to tell him the truth. Even a notorious thief doesn't want anybody to steal his stolen property. He has a value for other people, but he doesn't have value that he should follow the same thing. So I had to follow the same value what I expect others to do, others to follow. That becomes a ethical living. There are other society imposed the rules and regulations that I had to follow, so that the whole universe, the whole society can move systematically. In America, you have to drive in the right side, whereas in the other places you have to drive on the left side. So whatever the rules, because why should I drive on the right side? I can do anyway. Then you hurt yourself and you hurt others also. So following the rules of the regulations where I had to follow, I had to vote, I had to pay taxes, and if I don't do it, I'll be penalized, because that is the law of the land. So whatever that local laws I had to follow, those are all legal laws. But there are moral laws that we are discussing now, which takes us beyond the locality, which we carry with us. So it is the dharma that we take, because we don't take any with us. The artha, kama, all other things, we have to leave it here. When we leave this world, what we take is only our dharma. That means our good and bad deeds. The good and bad deeds, how do we take it? We'll discuss that aspect slowly, but that's part of our purushartha. I do what I want others to do to me, and I should also do, and I should not do what I don't want others to do to me. I want others to help me when I'm in need. I want others to be kind. I want others to forgive my mistakes. All these, I want to be other people should be compassionate. But I had to follow those. So whenever there's a doubt, says, do I expect others to do this or not? If I am in line and somebody is trying to cross, says, I don't expect others to cut across me, therefore I should not do to also. So this becomes the ethical living. And ultimately, I am comfortable with myself. Others may think I am a stupid, but I know that not doing something that I don't want others to do, I am at peace with myself. That is what essentially dharma means. I give you a simple example. I should not lie. It's a simple lie. Everybody says you should not lie. Mother says to the child, you should not lie. Father says, child, you should not lie. And when the telephone rings and the mother says, don't tell them that I am not here. Just now she told not to lie, but mother is ready to lie because for convenience. That means I am compromising my values. I should not lie as long as it is convenient for me. That's what essentially implying, or that's essentially we are teaching a child. But when I lie, who knows that I am lying? I know that I am lying because I know the truth. Therefore, whenever I compromise a value that I want others to follow, but when I compromise myself, that means I know the value and I am compromising, and the deviation between what I know and what I am doing is essentially called sin. So sin is defined the divergence between the intellect and the mind. This is a Swami Chinayanandaji's or Guru's statement. What is a sin? Sin is that it's not what book says. A simple statement is wherever there is a divergence between what I think I should do and what I am doing, or what I feel like doing different from what I think I do. If they are divergent, then I am committing a sin. Therefore, when a cow doesn't do any merits by eating a grass and not eating a meat, because that is its dharma. Their animals do not have a will to follow. Hey, should I today I'll eat something else? I've been eating everyday grass. That kind of things doesn't have for a cow. And tiger doesn't commit any more sin by killing its prey and eating, because that's its dharma. It depends on that. Nature has provided that way. Its ecological balance is established in that way. But only a man has the problem, because he can say, should I eat or should I not eat? So the decision to not to eat or to eat, should I be a vegetarian or should I be non-vegetarian? That question only comes to a human being, because he has an intellect, a will, and he has a way of not doing it for the benefit of the society also. So therefore, the choice of action is there for a human being. Because of the choice, because I have to choose, that's what Krishna calls karmanyeva adhikaraste. So adhikaram is defined normally as a right, or that's what normal meaning. But here is I have a choice in the performance. So in every situation I have a choice. Some people say I don't have a choice, I have to do. That's not true. I have a choice to do, not to do another way. Kartum sakyam, akartum sakyam, anyada kartum sakyam. So I always have a choice. In fact, I have no choice but to choose. I am always at crossroads. So what choice I exercise depends upon my value system. If my value system I am compromising because of I need something and I cannot get unless I do it this way, which is not legal way, then I am compromising my own value system. Oh, I may suffer if I don't do it that way, because everybody is doing that way. Yes, everybody is doing is not a justification for going illegal path. Everybody is going so fast, therefore I want to go fast. A police can catch you, and in the court of law, that is not an excuse that everybody is speeding, therefore I am also speeding. You can be given punished in spite of other people doing it, because a violation is everybody has the same excuse also. So therefore, whenever I compromise my value system, I am committing a sin. That sin is essentially the adharma. So dharma, adharma is what I carry with, and that leaves an impression in my mind. So whenever I lie, and I know lying is wrong, and still I lie, what happens? That means there is a divergence between my intellect and my mind. My mind is an emotional center and the intellect is a discriminative center. Whenever I have a gap between the mind and the intellect, when the mind doesn't follow the intellectual values, it feels like doing something else even though intellect knows that it is not something that should be done. I'm compromising my own and I'm getting a divergence between the mind and intellect, and the higher the divergence, greater is the sin. Therefore, as I become sensitive to the values, I become more careful not to violate my dharma. So as I become a more and more dharmic, my mind also becomes more and more sensitive to the values, and I do not like to compromise my own values because that will disturb my peace of mind. So all these things are important. And whenever my mind and intellect are disturbed, or not going together, or not integrated, because my intellect knows something and mind doesn't want to follow, there is a divergence between the mind and intellect, and we call it as a sin. And that non-integrated person loses his own willpower, because intellect knows what has to be done, but mind is not ready to follow. It makes its own judgment. Like an officer, like an intellect is like an officer, and clerk is the mind. Clerk is supposed to follow the officer's rule, but if it wants to do its own way, independent of the officer's statements or rules, then that office is going to be in chaos. So whenever I compromise myself, I lose the willpower. Will is coming tomorrow, I want to get up early. Who says? Intellect says. But mind, when an alarm rings, mind says, shut up. There's no point getting, it comes with all excuses for not doing what the intellect wants. And people who have no willpower cannot succeed in life. Tomorrow on, I'm going to do meditation, I want to get up early. Who says? Intellect says, because it has studied and says you have to get up very early to do meditation. That's what intellect is saying. But when the decision and the action is coming in the early morning, mind says, let's sleep some more. From tomorrow on, we will do it. There's no point. One day is not going to be a big deal. All the excuses to violate what the intellect says. That means I lost the will. A willful person, a successful person is a one who wants to do it, he does it. Everybody wants to become great, but everybody sitting in a potato, yes, I want to do exercise, I want to do this. So like a New Year resolutions, people pass, and after second day, third day, gone. Why? There is no will to follow the rules. A successful person in life is the one who has an integrated personality. What he thinks, what he feels, what he does are in line. There is no deviation. He thinks something and he does something else. He says something intellectually, he knows something, but he tells something else to others. So that means there is a violation. A crookedness means there is no straightforward. We respect a person who is straightforward. Why? Because we have a value for him. And Krishna says in the 13th chapter, says one has to be straight. Arjavam is a value, because that is important for spiritual growth. We'll analyze that slowly, but that is a value, and that is a dharma that we are talking about. And dharma and artha and kama are bounded one side by dharma, with the goal in the final one, that is the highest goal, is moksha, that we discussed in the last talk. So moksha is a freedom, so that is the highest purushartha, that is the highest destiny, and that is the highest goal for any human being. That's what Vedanta says. Is that really true? We have to know. Why should we accept what Vedanta says? So what exactly is moksha? Moksha is essentially freedom from all limitations. That's what we have defined. So different definitions of moksha is given by different philosophies and different religions. So if you go to Christianity, what is your freedom, liberation? So there is a day of judgment where you will be going to heaven or hell, either eternal hell or eternal heaven. So what do I do in heaven? You will be close to the Father in heaven, and all those things, because not only you, there will be other people also. So somebody put a joke, so all the Christians will go to heaven, but they in a building where there is no windows. Why? Because they cannot see outside. Why? Because if they think that they are the only ones who made it to heaven, so they cannot see outside, and nobody else they can see, other than only Christians have gone there. So say, I am the way. When Jesus says, the interprets, Jesus is the way you will be saving, not any other way. There is a deeper meaning for what Jesus said, I am the way. We'll investigate that also, because even Bible says, I am that I am, all that. So I am has to be understood. Later we will analyze, but moksha itself is, what exactly moksha? So every philosophical tradition, every religion has provided a different methodologies and different. So what exactly is the fate? What am I looking for? It says, you will be going to heaven if you do this. So what do I do in heaven? And another philosopher says, you will be going to Vaikuntha if you follow this. You will be going to Kailasa, you will be going follow this. If all this have something that you will go later, not now, when you follow this. Unfortunately, what happens is, after they followed and gone and died, nobody has come back to tell us that whether they are in the heaven or hell. So one Christian father was traveling along with one Swami, and this Christian father want to convert or insult that Swami, and says, do you know you go to hell if you don't follow the Jesus? And Swami said, what are you? Where are you going to go? He says, I am going to heaven because I am following Jesus. Then say, I am glad I am not going to go where you are, because that's going to be real hell. That's what the Swami replied. So one has to know what exactly is moksha, freedom. So what we analyze, freedom is freedom from all limitations. So where did you get that definition? Because any limitation causes me suffering. So moksha, if at all I would like to go or like to be, if it is, I should not be suffering. So it should be free from suffering. That's the number one. Even if I go to heaven, if I go to suffer, what good is that heaven? So there is one thermodynamic teacher asks his students, he says, prove that hell is either exothermic or endothermic. Exothermic means that system that gives out heat. Endothermic is system that absorbs the heat. So logically prove whether hell is an endothermic system or exothermic system. So what are you going to prove? So one fellow wrote very clearly, so hell must be exothermic system. So what is the logic? Because he says that according to any particular religion, if you follow that religion, then you go to heaven and not to hell. And there is eternal hell. That means you cannot come out of it. So those people only that follow that religion only go to heaven according to them. And everybody else who are not following, which are many, are going to hell as per that person. According to another religion, only those people who are following that religion will be going to heaven, and the rest are all going to hell. So by mutual exclusion, it looks like everybody is going to hell only, because according to him, others are going. According to him, all this fellow is also going. So everybody is going to hell only. So everybody is heading to eternal hell as per the religious statements. If you follow all the religions together and look at it. And hell is not an infinite system to accommodate everybody. because hell is different from a heaven, heaven is different from earth, so therefore each one by mutual exclusion, therefore hell is limited by other two. So in a limited place, everybody is getting packed because in every generation more people are coming, population is increasing, and therefore everybody is going to hell, and hell is getting packed, and therefore, and it is a finite system with getting packed, just like putting more and more into a chamber where a lot of things are burned. There will be a lot of heat generated, therefore it has to be exothermic system. So logic is very good, but is pointing out the problem in terms of what is heaven and what is hell. So if any religion, if we talk about, whether it's a Vedantic teachers or outside Vedanta, if the moksha is being defined as a system that is still limited by space-wise, time-wise and object-wise, because those are my fundamental limitations. I may have a more space and I have more time and I have a more object-wise, I may be having a lot of things. By proclamation, by hypothesis, I have better things in heaven, but yet it is limited. So in the Taittiriya Upanishad, there is a Ananda scale of happiness. So one unit of happiness is defined is that when a human being on the earth, owns the whole earth, whole world, and young enough to digest anything he eats, but he has no problems and no diseases therefore, and that happiness of that person is one unit. And the next unit is the guy in the next level is 100 times more of the happiness than this person, which is even one unit we don't have it, because even a fellow who owns it only little land and he thinks he is a millionaire. But we are talking about the one who owns all land, the king of all kings, yet and young enough to enjoy the sensations or enjoyments, and even his happiness is only one. And the next level, the Gandharvas and the Devas and so on and so forth, there are many layers, and each layer, happiness of that is 100 times more than the lower level, next lower level. Like that, if you go, there is an Ananda scale that Taittiriya Upanishad discusses, and the highest one is essentially the one that is the Hiranyagarbha, is a Brahmaji. His happiness is, if you compare to a human happiness, one unit is 10 to the power of 26. That means 1 followed by 26 zeros. So they add on that scale. And his happiness is that highest, but still his happiness is limited. And there his highest happiness even more than that, because even Brahmaji's is limited because his time-wise, his space-wise and object-wise, they are all limited. So the moksha has to be defined as that who is space-wise, time-wise and object-wise, desha, kala, vastu. It has to be independent. That means it doesn't depend upon any of these three, or limited by any of these three. That alone should be real moksha. Any other moksha, therefore, we can reject it, because you are only having a more better convenient place, but still limited place. That's not infinite happiness. Therefore, what we are looking for, self-realization or God realization, what we are looking for is a moksha, which we call it a nirvana or liberation, is freedom from limitations. What are the limitations? Time-wise, space-wise, object-wise. These are fundamental limitations. And that means time-wise means it is eternal, and space-wise means it is infinite, and object-wise means there is nothing other than I am. All three has to be satisfied. then only it's called moksha. So anything that does not fit in, we have to reject it as illogical. Whoever says doesn't matter. We are only concerned about the issues, not the acharyas. We respect all acharyas, but we are talking about the logical, and this is any limitations in terms of space, time wise and all cannot be moksha. And moksha is the highest one, that purushartha that we have to seek. So how do we seek? And what has that to do with this self-realization? We have started talking about self-realization. What has that to do with the self-realization? We will examine now slowly what is involved in self-realization, what is involved in moksha, and also what's involved in God realization. This we will do in the next talk. We'll stop here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.